Hi, I'm Dick Koch. I want to show you on this video how I go about making this bowl. It's a segmented bowl made of yellow heart and walnut. I made it along with this lid for the beads of courage, and the lid fits on like this. But I'm not going to cover making this. This is basically, once you've learned to make this, the lid is fairly simple to make. But we're just going to talk about the bowl on this video. I'll cover everything except for cutting the boards into strips of wood that can be segmented. I'll show you how to cut them for segments, but ripping the boards into narrow pieces you just do on table saw and or a bandsaw you could use, I guess. Also, I use a table saw, but I'll cover everything else, including the cutting of the segments, the assembly of rings, assembling the rings into a rough bowl shape, turning it, and the finishing operations. So we'll also talk about, and I'll show you how I calculate the dimensions for the bowl on a computer. So let's get started. As I mentioned, I use a program called WoodTurner Pro to lay out the rings necessary and to do the calculations for me. This is the lid for the bowl, and we're not going to talk about that during the construction. This is a base, in this case a solid walnut ring base, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yellow heart rings, and then a segmented walnut cap on the bowl. It's a pretty simple bowl to make, but it looks nice, and people say it has a nice shape. The WoodTurner Pro program generates a cutting summary after you decide on the shape and size. From each ring, here's the base ring down here, which says disc walnut, 1/2 inch thick, 3 inches in outside diameter, and goes right on up to the top ring of the bowl, which is row number 7, flat walnut, 12 segments, 1/2 inch diameter, and all the other dimensions are given here. Cutting angle is over here at 15 degrees for all of the segments on this, because we're using 12 segments per piece. And the program gives you the board length that you need, the width of the board, the width of each, or the length of each segment that you have, and these are the diameters that the segments, the rings will turn out to be. 6 inches OD and 4 1/4 ID in this particular case, and that varies up and down here. So this is a kind of a cutting summary that we develop, and from this I go into cutting the wood. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut 12 segments out of this piece of wood, and since it's a little noisy when I do that, I put on hearing protection, and it'll be rather noisy on the screen.
And what are you using there to cut it with?
Stop block here with a preset that every segment comes out the same length, and it just comes out perfectly. You don't have to do any more measuring. Plant your wood, and so it holds in tight while you cut it. Keep your hands away from it. top, right. Design has 12 segments per ring, so we're going to make 12 segments. Then, because these have little things sticking out sometimes, you know, I go over to the sander and I just quickly sand both surfaces down. You'll see that.
Which sander is that you use?
That's the disc sander, right over here behind you.
Do you use a mask when you do that?
No, it doesn't. It sucks up the stuff just fine. Just a light touch. Clean that up, that surface up, and make it perfect.
Collects the dust really well, that filter.
We put the segments in a circle here. Make sure that they all come together okay. Stick a rubber band around it, and then I can check them. We want to make sure that when everything's all lined up, that the joints look pretty good. For some reason, these seem to be a little bit off. So we have a remedy for that too. Tape down to hold these in place while we glue them. Sure it's long enough. Stick these down on the tape right along the edge. And we press them down really tight. Trim off the edge here. We don't need that anymore. And in this case, I'm going to divide them into half. So I'll trim it here too. Okay, now it's time to glue. And we're not going to put any glue here and here and in the middle, because we're going to make two semicircles. To correct a little bit of error in them somehow, cutting error. We spread the glue nice and evenly. Both sides of each joint gets a thin layer of glue. We skip that one. Okay, now we have two semicircles like this. What we're going to do is put these little pegs between them. And that will kind of make them self-adjusting, so that when we put our clamp on and tighten it up, they will come together, and then we can sand that joint between the two semicircles later on, and it'll come out perfectly.
We still have to whack these after they're glued.
Yeah, I don't think I'll whack this one here. I'll just tighten them up. This side is good on all of them, so sometimes a piece of wood is a little thicker than others. Hi, there's another technique in gluing these segments together that I wanted to show you, and it's one that I have more recently adopted, and it works very well. So let's go down the board here, and I'll show you what we're doing. No clamping required on these, no masking tape down here, no clamps, but I'll show you how we do it. We take the little bit of glue and we put it on one side of a segment, and we rub them together so that both sides are nicely covered with a thin layer of glue. Put it down on the board and we rub it back and forth here. Get it aligned, and because of the properties of the tight bond original glue, this is pretty well glued together at this point. And after a minute or so, you'd have to be hard pressed to take it apart. So let's go ahead and make a few more of these, and we'll proceed to make up a ring. And we'll just show you how fast it works. These particular rings that I'm making have 14 segments in them instead of 12, and as a result I make them up in half rings to check the fit of them before I turn them into full rings. So each half ring has an odd number of segments, 7 segments, but that works out fine, doesn't make any difference. Okay, now I have a bunch of pairs glued up, and I'm going to take a couple of single pieces here, make sure that the ends are clean, free of everything, and I'm going to take one single piece and glue it on to one of the pairs here. Just as quick as that. Take the other single piece and glue it onto a pair. Like that. And now I have some ready pieces put together that are 4 pieces. And I can smear a little glue on that. Take this one that I just put together. Make sure the glue is on fine. Rub it. And it's all set. And I can pick it up and move it. And I can take this other piece and do the same thing with it. And I've got, so now I have two half circles. Now I've just done two before, a few minutes ago, of the same thing. These match up pretty good, but what I'm going to do is take them over to a disc sander and just make sure these two surfaces are perfectly plain, and then I'll glue these together and we'll have a circle. And that's how this system works. It works very easily, no clamping, and I like it very much. Okay, now these pieces here that we just glued, they've dried now for a few minutes. They don't really have to dry very long. So we're going to just touch up the joints, make sure they are really good. Let's swing around here and see this. And that's all there is to it, and these will glue together just perfectly. Okay, now we've just sanded these pieces, and we're just going to put a little glue on the edges here. Make sure that it's transferred to the other piece completely. You really want to have both sides completely wet out with glue. So when you put them together, you're really having a glue-to-glue joint. You're not having, that's what it is, really. So, put them together, rub them, get them aligned the way you like it. And put it aside, and we'll do the other one. That's good. Rub them together, get them aligned before that sets up, and we're good to go. And don't forget to clean your board off.
So what is this?
So this is a glue up here of waste. The white is waste blocks, just plain old poplar, and then we have. For this project, we have 3-inch walnut discs that are going to be the bottom of our bowls, and solid. And after we turn it, then it'll be turned off so that the only thing left is part of the walnut will show. Mounting the waste blocks onto the face plates so that we can turn. So what we have is walnut piece, which is going to be the bottom of our little bowl, a waste block, which will disappear, and then the face plate, which we screw onto the lathe. And since I'm doing 3 of these, I've prepared 1 for each lathe.
And over here, what do we have here?
And here we have one for the third one, and then we have our first level of rings, hollow rings, and we have a second level of hollow rings. One is still being glued, and then we still have the other work on the others. But then these are going to be the lids for the bulbs. So we've done those already. we're all set, then the next process is to start mount them on the lathe and start turning them up. Okay, the next step is to sand one side of these discs so that when we put them on to the adjacent part on the lathe, that it will be a smooth finish. And for that, I'm going to use a drum sander. You can also use a belt sander, or you can take a full sheet of sandpaper and glue it down to a flat piece of wood and do it by hand if you want to do it the long way. So we're going to start this up. Drum sander is running, and it's got a belt that's going to feed the stuff through, and I'm going to feed these through one at a time. It needs more sanding, so I'm going to lower the drum and put them through another time. Through enough time so that the surface is all okay. We're going to lower it again and put it through again. Okay, this one's fine. All the others are fine. Nice and smooth. Every piece there's no pieces that are up. Like here's the other side, which hasn't been sanded, but that will be turned. But you can see that there's some pieces are a little thicker than others. But this side is all ready to be glued up. So that'll be the next operation. Now the next operation, we've smoothed off the disc. Now we have to face this off here on the lathe. This is the piece we put on before, and we'll also round it off. So that's the operation I'm going to do now. Okay, now it's important that we check to make sure that this is absolutely flat. So for that, we take a straight edge and we set it across here, and we'll see where it's actually it looks pretty. Now once you have it turned down as good as you can, it looks almost perfect when you put a flat edge against it. What I always do is I just take a sanding block, which is just a piece of flat wood with some sandpaper glued to it, and I put it on and just make sure that it's really flat. And it just takes a couple of seconds, and that's all you need to do. Next step is to glue the piece we sanded on our drum sander, and we're going to attach it here, to glue it up to here, basically like this. And just checking it looks perfectly fine. I'm just going to go with the glue, and we'll do that. Okay, now the way this is done, of course, we just put glue around the inside surface of this and the outside surface of this, because this one is so much larger than that. But I like to put a little glue on both surfaces. On the outside surface of this. And then we're using the Tight Bond original glue, which has really good initial tack. So the thing holds on there by itself right away. The thing you want to do, and you can get a close-up of this if you will, is make sure these lines here, these joints come in the middle of the previous one, all around. And this looks pretty good. You can slide it around. With Tight Bond 2, you can slide for a minute or two before the tack hole is so good that you can't slide it anymore. But you want to get it, and that way it'll be even, and it'll look good when it's finished. So these lines then will actually line up with these lines over here. You just do it so that it looks pretty good. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, but the better you do it, the better the final result will be. It'll just look better. Then to clamp this, what I do is I take a piece of plywood and a little hole in here to fit on my live center, and I stick this up, and I just use this as a temporary clamp. And with this Tight Bond glue, you can do it for 20-30 minutes, and that's fine, and it'll be ready to turn. Although usually I take it off after maybe 10 or 15 minutes, wipe out any glue that's on the inside, and let it dry thoroughly. So after an hour, I'll turn this and add another one. So that's it. That's how we do it. Okay, the outside is rounded off. Reposition this so that I can turn on the inside here. Round this off a little high. Pretty much roughed out to where I want it. So now I have to face this off so I can attach the next piece. Just a matter of making it smooth and has to be flat. And we need to take off more on the outside. Just a little bit more. Looks pretty good. At this point, we'll sand it as a final step before gluing. Turn down the speed of the lathe when we do that. And just a quick sanding here. Check it once more with our straight edge. And it's perfect. And that's the way we want it. It's got to be perfect. Now this piece here is going to go on next. It's already been sanded. Sanded flat. That's going to go on there. And you see it's a little smaller than the one we just had. So that's fine. That's what we want. It's a clamping device. Get our glue out. And this has to be glued around the outer edge of this. Nice layer of glue, and we'll put a corresponding layer on this. Put this up, rub it all around. Smear the glue evenly. And again, we want to make sure that we get our lines lined up just right all around. You have to check it all around. Tight bond is tacky enough so that it doesn't really slide now. That's pretty good. Bring this up, tighten that up. Bring our tailstock up, apply even pressure all around, and naturally we wipe off any excess glue on the outside. After this, there's only one more ring to put on, and that'll be a walnut ring, which kind of will match the one on the bottom. And that's how we do it. So now we have the last piece of wood on here, which is a walnut piece, and we've got to finish turning the inside of it. I can do a little bit with the bowl gouge, but because of the angle, I'm going to have to go to a scraper. better. Kind of dark in there, probably.
Yes, changing scrapers.
Changing scrapers to curved scraper here. Now at this stage we have the inside pretty much turned. I'll get a little bit more work to do on it, but I can do the outside at this point now and shape the outside the way we want it. About there, I think. And that's about as long as I wanted that. I shortened that up a little bit. And now I have the rest of this to shape, at least roughly shape at this point. Step is to apply a finish, and I've already put one coat of finish on here, and I'll do the second now. Before I apply any more finish, I need to sand it, and I'm using 320 grit. Very light sanding. You just want to sand the finish a little bit. You don't want to sand off any more than necessary. It's still on the lathe. Makes it quicker and easier. So I can just go in here and quickly just sand in case there's anything that bumps on the finish or whatever, imperfections in the first coat, and I just sand it lightly and so that it's real nice. And I like to use the sanding glove It's makes it really nice for sanding. That's probably all I have to do there. Take a piece of a little clean rag here and dust it out, and I'll just take a look at it and see how it looks. And of course, feel it with your hands and make sure it's all nice and smooth. First coat you put on, gets absorbed in and it's not quite as good. Now what I'm going to use for finishing, one of my favorite things, I'll use Formby's. They call it a tongue oil, but it's really a varnish. And I wipe it on. Gotta allow about 24 hours to dry.
Do you protect the lathe bed?
You absolutely want to protect your lathe when you're doing this. Right. And since you wipe it on with your hands, it's a good idea to protect your wiping hand, whatever that may be. In my case, it's my right hand. And we're going to put that down in case there's any dribbles. And we'll use a little cloth pad here. Get it good and saturated, and just wipe it on. Now it's hot today. It's up in the 90s, so it's going to dry pretty quickly. Get a tack on it pretty quickly. But that's all it is. I mean, it's really a simple way of finishing. And most people think it's a really nice finish. It's a very durable finish. It is varnish. It cures well, cures hard. But that's about all there is to putting a coat of varnish on. And take one more coat probably, and I'll be finished with it, as far as that's concerned. And then it has to cure for a week or so before you polish it. Okay, one of the last things we want to do is, this has been finished with several coats of varnish, and one of the last things we do is part this off, because that's the last step on the lathe I want to do. So I'm going to do that now. And I'm almost all the way through, but not quite. So what I'm going to do then is get a saw and finish it, just to eliminate any problem with this thing flying off and damaging itself. Okay, we're going to take a saw and just finish it off, and then I can sand the whatever's remaining off. I've got a little bit here to sand off, and I'll do that with a sander and then finish off the bottom of this.